evening troopers. I'm fat, but the cool thing would be for you not to make a fuss about it. I didn't really know what to do the video on tonight, so I asked a Facebook group called Game Trader, which is full of terrible human beings, what they should think I do, what they thought I should do. And one guy suggested talk about the old Resident Evil. And you know what? He's probably right, because I think this needs talking about. Because it's a classic. It's a classic. It's a genre creator. It's a genre definer. And it's still absolutely terrifying. Pause. Logo. Inside the man cave. Imagine that I'd edited it and I'd done that. Imagine that. So, tonight's topic, Resident Evil. Now, this is obviously going to have spoilers. If you need a spoiler alert for a 25-year-old game, get out of the house. Meet some people. Meet a woman, meet a man, meet something that makes you happy and spend the rest of your life with that thing and don't bother me again. That's my advice to you. For those of you who aren't worried about spoilers for a 25-year-old game, Resident Evil. Changed a lot of lives, this game. Changed my life. It opened up possibilities in gaming that I didn't know were possible. Possibilities in gaming. It opened up possibilities in gaming that I didn't know they were there. This created the film as game, game as film crossover interactive movie. And I think it showed that we'd started a new era. Brushed aside all the 2D, all that tut, and all of a sudden now we had this terrifying horror film unfold in front of us that we were intimately involved with. And it wasn't a breeze. You know, it made you. It was difficult. It was puzzling, but in a really classy way. At one point, you have to play Moonlight Sonata on a piano. What kind of company? I mean, I've worked for big companies, right? Multi-million-pound concerns. I've never gone into the R&D bit and gone, boys, I need something out of the filing cabinet, and they've gone, yeah, just play Moonlight Sonata on that upright, mate. Dum da dum. Door opens. Yeah, I get it. So the premise is there's this city called Raccoon City. Of course, it's called Raccoon City. Why would it not be called Raccoon City? It's a perfectly reasonable name for a city. And this city is big enough to have a essentially special forces police team that have zero discipline. They're like, you know, at the start of Heartbreak Ridge. That kind of level of discipline. Because no one wears anything the same as anyone else. The uniforms out the window. They make G.I. Joe look like stormtroopers, right? There's a medic that wears like bright pink. There's Chris Redfield who looks like he's come out of E17. There's Wesker who's got a flat top and sunglasses. Dude, that was never good. Right? That was never cool. That bit annoys me. But I've got to, hang on. Every time I wear this helmet, genuinely I get more respect for service people that have worn and fought and defended us. I really genuinely mean that. Because it's uncomfortable just sat here doing a stupid video and no one's trying to stand me up or anything. So, rewind back to before I scratched my head and talked about my feelings. So, this Special Forces police team of misfits and oddballs are hunting down some kind of murdering animals from a helicopter, as you do. The helicopter crashes and they find themselves in a country house. In the country, does drink, smoke, laugh, takes her baths in the country. But unlike Blur's country house, this one has a multinational weapons and bioweapons company's HQ around it, underneath it, part of it. For some reason, they've left much of the house still a mansion. I'm assuming possibly it's under some kind of preservation order. But it's full of puzzles. There's a bit where you've got to get an important piece of information, you've got to play Moonlight Sonata on the piano. What kind of company? I've worked for some big companies, right? And I've never had to go into an R&D lab and go, boys, I just need file beta 7.9. Oh, okay, I'll just play Saturday Night's Alright for this on alt-right. Doors open. Brilliant. Cheers, boys. Catch you later. No, what kind of company are they running? So there's puzzles all through the house. You go out into the grounds, there's puzzles in the ground, there's some caves, a boulder rolls after you. You find parts of your team, literally parts of your team, and parts of your team. That's a pun. And then you find yourself in like an underground lab that's tiny, really, compared to the rest of it. And then there's something called a triggering mechanism. I remember at the time going, what does it mean by triggering mechanism? Because I don't know whether I've just missed something or what, but it blew up. And then there was this dude after you all the time, and right at the end you fired a great rocket launcher at him and that alarmed him. And there was loads of different endings. In brief, because that was sounded a bit mayhem to me in my own head, I've just described why it opened so many doors in gaming. Because first of all, you had a choice. There was choices all the way through. Although they were fake choices. You had the choice of going left or right, but eventually you went both ways. You had the choice of which character to play, who played different. And you got a different story. You played as Chris, you got a different story to if you played as Jill. You played as Chris, you got a different ending if you played as Jill. If you played badly, you got a different ending to if you played well. And there was content that you couldn't... Normally, games before that wanted to show you everything they'd done. Whereas Resident Evil said, well, if you want to see it, you've got to work for it, Petal. And that's what they did. And I respect it a lot. And I think it made a lot of people go, boom, in the industry. Because if you look at the games that were coming out, yeah, there's clones. Silent Hill, Resident Evil is like Deep Impact, Armageddon. Only less Liv Tyler in either. But there were other games that could trace themselves back to the... You can see bits of the Arkham games in Resident Evil. The quick time events that Resident Evil brought in that weren't annoying. That... I want to swear, but I can't. That shark... Oh! But do you know what I loved? Is when... By the way, I just want to remind everyone what we're talking about here. Because I've been rambling and I don't know where I am. I might have even repeating myself because this is like a second take. But that shark, because when you walked in and the water was there, that shark minced you. But then you got rid of the water, and then where was the shark? Flapping around. You could leave him. You know what? I took him out. And it's kids. Yeah. That showed him. The music was fantastic. The design was fantastic. It made sense. It made sense within its own sort of world of there's a mansion with puzzles, and to get from one end of the mansion to the other, you have to do puzzles. But it seemed logical at the time. It scared the bejesus out of me. And I think a lot of people. I think it created its mood really well through its design and through its sound. And it looks kooky now with the Jill, as the master of unlocking, you'd better have the lockpick. Like Shatner did everything, right? But that's because every word was pretty much its own CD track, I think. It was like a real mess. But they were flying blind in a way because no one had done a game like that. That big and that immersive and that... In my head now, I'm just playing through the house. And I reckon... I think, if you took all the baddies out and said, go to X room, I could just go straight there. I know that house better than I know the house I grew up in when I was a child. And it made you work for it as well. It didn't give you all the bullets you needed, by a damn sight. I seem to remember, when I played it years ago, I reckon I managed to sort of sidestepper somewhere, because you know when you go back into the house when you've been out into the grounds, and there's like these big mutant green amphibian monsters. I remember the way I got into the house. I went a different way, and they were facing the opposite way. They were waiting for me to come the other way, so I could come in the room, and they were like with their back to me. So I was like, acid, shotgun, boom, 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 and rinsed them. And I think I might have just made that up. As far as I remember, that's the fact. The point is that you didn't always play it the same way twice. You didn't see everything. You didn't see everything as Chris. You had to play it through 5 or 6 times to see everything. And the jump scares, and the boss is a big snake in the loft. Who has a loft? Who has a big loft with a snake in it? They do. The shark, which I might have already mentioned. I enjoyed taking out the shark. The plant. Finding out Wesker was a baddie. And then blowing it all up at the end. Magnificent. I do love a bit of Resident Evil. From that on, I bought Resident Evil. Was it Survivor, the first-person shooty light gun game? That was... I don't know what was going on with that. Resident Evil 2. Now, I remember when I was at uni, my housemate... I don't know whether we had PS1s together or it was staggered, but I know he had a PS1. He had a PS1 first, and he was buying games for it. He bought Crash Bandicoot because he wasn't an idiot, and then we were looking, and I think we had the choice of Resident Evil 2 or Resident Evil Director's Cut, and I was going to get the Director's Cut because at the time I was young and an idiot, and anything with Director's Cut's got to be good. It's got to be better, hasn't it? Because it's the Director's Cut. You think of what? Buy the Director's Cut. But he bought Resident Evil 2. And that was a masterpiece as well. Although, when you first walk into that police station, it does look like a little bit like when you first walk into the mansion. As for the films, least said about the films, the better. There was a point in Resident Evil 2. What's the one in the city? It just made me so angry I just wanted to walk out of the place. It was just, I think they were in, it's either 2 or 3. It must be 2 because I want to go and see more than 2. And they were in like a school or something, and one character had turned the gas someone's on in one part of this building, and then she like ramped her motorbike through it and threw a match, boom! And it looked amazing, but we were like, no, wait a minute. How did she know that she'd turned the gas on? Because they were like 150 yards apart and there's like 14 rooms between them. Have a narrative, right? Make an effort. That's my opinion. So, I've enjoyed that little rant, actually. I'm glad I asked about a suggestion for Resident Evil. It's really long. This is going to like 13 minutes. I'm really sorry about that. So, in essence then, Resident Evil for the PS1, it is an epoch-making game. It broke the mould for design, for music, for acting, for style, for what was possible in a long-form narrative game. And I salute it. And I salute Capcom. And I'm glad they're a thing. So, I hope you've enjoyed this. If you did, like, subscribe. And I like to do, like, 3 over the weekend. Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. Tonight's Friday night. This has gone well. I'll try and do one tomorrow. And then Sunday night will be a What's on My Shelf, because that's my new thing. I'm going to start having, like, a routine. So, Monday night's a quickie. Wednesday night's a book you might like. Sunday night's What's on My Shelf. Thanks for watching. Good night.